Francesca Donato, thank you so much for joining Ed and myself and the broader audience for this pre-recording for the Peace Roundtable. For those who I'll give a broader introduction in the future, but for those who may not know, I had the privilege of sharing a stage with Francesca last week or the week before last in Italy on Radio Roma, and I was very impressed by your broad geopolitical considerations and analysis. And so I really thank you for coming on today to share some of your considerations.
Thank you for the invitation and for your very nice words. It's a pleasure for me to be with you today.
Great. Well, since you've been somebody on the front lines, on the thick of things inside of the European Parliament as a fighter for peace against the hypocrisy that's been pushing us closer to war, currently, certainly the facade of the democratic, free, Western order, rules-based order is completely collapsing. And there are some very interesting ruptures, disruptive, I think, positive disruptions, but also a lot of very scary things in play right now. And maybe we'll just start with a general. I'll throw a general question at you before Ed. I'm sure he's going to have a bunch of other secondary thoughts to throw your way. Where do you see the world right now, and what do you think are the most important things that people should be paying attention to, whether they're in Europe or whether they are in North America?
I think that we all, people of Western countries and democratic values, we should all really fight and stand up for true democracy, because what we are actually seeing in these days and lately is a very concerning move towards something that means the end of democracy. I was very happy when I saw the victory of Donald Trump in the US, because I think that he's the only person who can really subvert the rotted system that has governed last years with the Biden administration. And we perfectly know that the US administration directly influences all politics in the European Union and also in other countries globally. At present, we see a very dramatic move of European countries towards a war scenario. All the speeches, all the talks, all the laws that the European Union is putting forward are directly connected to the idea and to the project of starting a new war, or any way of having a very defiant and provocating posture against Russia. This happens paradoxically in times when the US is actively working to fix the problems in the European Union between Russia and Ukraine, and to restart a dialogue, a collaboration, a peaceful relationship between the West and the East, starting from Russia, but not only. And it's really bad, unacceptable that just in this moment, the European Union is working against these efforts and is trying sort of to sabotage all this work that the American administration is doing to give us peace back and give us a hope, stability, economic stability, and political stability, and a future for our families, enterprises, and whatever. So I'm really, really concerned and unhappy about the proposals coming from the European Commission, and the fact that the European Parliament has approved the Rearm Europe proposal, and most of all the resolution against Russia, where they expressly say that we should allow to attack Russia in its own territory. This just confirms that all that Mr. Putin, President Putin said along these years was true, that the truth is that Europe is threatening Russia and not the opposite. They have been telling us, and they are telling us every day, that we must be able to defend Europe and democracy from the Russian threats. But the reality and the truth is that Russia is under threat from Europe, because after expanding NATO till the very borders of Russia, and after supporting the country that has been for 8 years, attacking and persecuting Russian citizens or Ukrainian citizens that wanted to continue to speak Russian or have connections with their Russian relatives, doing really undemocratic and fascist actions. Now Europe really stands up against efforts for dialogue and negotiations for peace. And I think this is really unacceptable for all European and all, American, Canadian, all Western countries, populations and citizens who are fed up with all this stuff. I don't want to be trivial,
No,
but it's
absolutely.
really bad.
Yeah,
Ed,
great.
do you have a question?
Great to hear. And it's important that there are voices in Europe who understand that. And in the past, Matt and I, we produced a film about the other America. So maybe you can help us to, it doesn't have to be necessarily film, but at least on paper, what would you think is other Europe? Because each European country, I'm pretty sure, has people who think like you, like Matt and I. And I know that there was recently a meeting in Madrid of something resembling the other Europe. But it's not really organized in some kind of a resistance international. It has to be really some movement, because we are really on the edge of war. And if Europe, all of them are saying that in about 3 or 4 years, or 4 or 5 years, when they get all this money and weapons, so we have very short breathing time. So it will be great to see this in French. Maybe Matt will know how to say it in French. Resistance, Resistance International. We had something like this back in the Soviet days, when we assembled a group of people in each country who were really resistant to Soviet expansion and like war in Afghanistan and other things that Soviet Union was doing, like in Prague, 68, and Hungary before. So it would be great to have your opinion, maybe a list of individuals who could be leaders in each country to form this Resistance International.
Well, it's true. There are, in each country has its political parties or groups that are really trying to put up a resistance to all of that. But the point is that the global establishment is so much aware of that it's doing whatever it takes to prevent it to be successful. What we are seeing right now is in Romania, they just made a coup, reversing the results of the presidential elections that were won by a person who was an independent candidate against that establishment, who wanted to progress in the direction of peace, of disarmament, or of having good relationships with Russia and thinking about the people's interests, not only the lobbyist ones, because he was a member of the United Nations and he was very outspoken in calling out the corruption and the control of lobbies in the United Nations, which is the core of the problem. The lobbies, the big financial lobbies who control all war firms or big pharma or big tech and whatever, they are trying to save their power against the power of the people, and they are very structurally dismantling democracy in each country. So in Canada, I just saw that the former president resigned, and a new one has been chosen, putting there a person who was, I don't know, in Goldman Sachs or JP Morgan, I don't know which one of the very big banks, and without any election, without any democratic process. In Romania now, the candidate Georgescu will not be allowed to run again. So they, eliminated him. In Germany, the first the party who really had a very grow up, which is AfD, which is a right-wing party, was deactivated by a new coalition between the center-right and the socialists. So all this stuff is put up to prevent the people from getting the power, from being able to connect with each other, and all the anti-Russian propaganda, all the sanctions to Russia and the prohibitions for people who try to speak in favor of good relations with Russia, are just done to prevent this connection, because they use these false claims to stop everybody. These false claims were used just to accuse, to put under inquiry Mr. Georgescu in Romania. So they are really using every tool they have to prevent people from connecting with each other and from organizing this resistance, because they are much afraid of it.
Yeah, and you had Milorad Dodik as well, right, in Syrska, who's been condemned to apparently go to jail for a year by the German commander or viscount in charge of this area in Bosnia-Herzegovina, simply because he was not obedient. The veneer of democracy is gone, so it's wild. And I appreciate the fact that you've outlined the threat to the public will, because at any time you have somebody who's calling for peace, for caring for the people first, instead of these technocrats, they're labeled a populist and thus fascist, and taken out of the democratic process. It's insane.
Yeah, it's labeled as far right. Far right, Putin propaganda, spreads and whatever. They use these labels to, to stop everything, to prevent this speech and these actions to be done legally. And this is a very powerful weapon that they have, because they use justice, they use judges to do this. And this is the tremendous thing in this moment, that judges and justice has bent their knees to this power, this anti-democratic power. And if that happens all over Europe and all over the Western countries, really, it's so difficult to subvert this regime, because it's a sort of a regime. Let's call it how it deserves to be called.
Can I ask a follow-up question? Can I ask one little question?
Sure.
I there's obviously, as you alluded to, a lot of discussion right now from Ursula and van der Leyen and so many others of these technocrats, Draghi and others, trying to describe how we must accept going into a war economy and we have to have a military war with, or we have to outproduce Russia in military equipment with $800 billion that's going to go to assist the Ukrainians in dying faster. Part of me is thinking, well, that's scary. But the other part of me is thinking, is this just simply wishful thinking? Because I look at the capabilities, the productive capabilities of Europe, which seem to be incompetent. I look at the cultural, intellectual capabilities. It's incompetent. Do you think that this is a real danger? Do you think that, what I guess I'm asking is, do you think that they can fulfill this dream that they seem to have, or do you think it's completely a fantasy?
I think that their true strategy is that of escalating tensions and using this instrument, this tool of rearming to provoke a necessary intervention of the US. Because if they continue provoking Russia and they go ahead with these crazy, mad plans of attacking Russia on its territory, it will, there will be the outcomes, obvious outcomes, that Russia will need to react to protect its people and its territory. And they want that, as they wanted the Russian invasion in Ukraine, to be able to say, you see what happens? Russia is the enemy, Russia is the threat, so we all, with NATO, must intervene and fight against Russia. So they want to arrive at the point when, according to Article 5 of the NATO treaty, the US are compelled to get in this crazy plan of war. But I think that they are miscalculating, because I think that Mr. Trump, President Trump, and his team are not so naive as they think, and they are realizing what's happening somehow. That would be not so simple to lead them in the direction they want. And also, there is also the other aspect that European people are really now worried and concerned. There is, I think, the percentage of people who are unaware of the risks we are going towards, and of the challenges and the dangers for their own lives and their own children, is getting thinner and thinner day by day. And a lot of people are starting to be very much concerned about this developing, this escalation. So I think that if things go on this way, there will be a massive grow out of the so-called populist parties and movements. That will be a huge problem for this establishment. So I'm quite concerned, but I don't want to be so pessimistic to think that this crazy plan can become true. And of course, I hope this. Maybe this is my wishful thinking, but I really have faith that this cannot be what comes out from this madness, and that at some point something will stop this path. Hopefully.
Well, the problem is that we have only short time. Trump will be only for 4 years, and we don't know who is going to win in 2028. And if Democrats come back to the White House, this war party will move, and then at this point looks like America is on the side of peace. Well, let's say just with some, of course, limitations, but still. But if Washington changes its leader, then things can go even worse. So that's why it's very important what I was talking about to kind of consolidate all those forces in Europe who understand what's happening. No, just I think with the internet, I remember in old days, without internet, we have to write something and then pass copies of this our manifestos and all this. But now we have voice and media, even in the United States and Europe, there's certain voices and can bring some sense to what's happening. So we need your help to be our maybe European leader, because you know people in many countries who think the same way as you, and form kind of a coalition, and then we can help you and Matt in Canada and in UNAS, because we publish articles in U.S. media, so we can promote your views, and hopefully 4 years will use to save the mankind.
I really hope that something will be done and that our voices will be stronger and stronger, and that we can find some sort of support to go ahead with these battles, because what you say is very true. I think that in the US, the Trump administration is working very well to consolidate their power, doing dramatical changes, starting from the heads of crucial institutions like the CAA, the FBA, and whatever, just to prevent the Dems to go back again and spoil all the job that they're doing. And I think that on the people's side, it will be very difficult that the Dems will regain consensus and regain, voters after what they have done and what they are trying to do currently. And this is happening all over the West. But in any case, we must be very, very careful. We should be able to make these changes in Europe as well. Because in Europe, on the contrary, all the important institutions are still led by globalists, by sort of left-wing people who are using their power to support warmongers, to support lobbies, and to give them more and more power to influence national policies. The work is very hard, it's very long to do, and we should start right now. We have, in Italy, for instance, we have the only party who is trying to do this is the Lega party, which I belong to, where I belonged when I was elected in the European Parliament. But it's a minority, so it's a very hard task for all of us.
Well, I think that you've put forth reason and conscience in words very effectively in the way only a citizen can do. And I think the lesson here, and seeing what we've seen both in the course of the better experiences in the US's, the very young republic that is the United States, at those moments of existential crisis, we have found citizens who took on responsibilities and participated more ardently, knowing that if they did not, their nation would not survive at various key moments. I believe that we are currently living through, and we've seen some results of that cultural dynamic. And sometimes a crisis is an opportunity that does force people to get their heads out of their asses, to become less complacent. And we've seen that as well with the case in Romania of Călin Georgescu, whose support base, despite this injustice that's befallen him, has doubled. So there's less illusions amongst the Romanian people about what is guiding their society. And we can only hope that this crisis is going to force more and more people to become much more aware about the dangers of allowing this technocratic warmongering regime to continue to go unchallenged. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your insight and your experience. I look forward to future conversations, as does Ed. And it's great to make another ally. So thank you so much.
Thanks to you. And yeah.
I just want to add something that Italy has very strong, I know you're familiar with this movement. It's called Verona Eurasia Forum. Dr. Anthony Falico, I don't know if you know him.
What's the name of this person?
Anthony Falico.
No, I don't know him.
He runs Verona, Italian, great city of Verona, and it's called Verona Eurasian Forum. I will send you information about this, and maybe if you put what you just said, on paper in kind of an article, maybe like about 1,000 words, we will publish it. And now Italy, we have a very strong. Now we have two boys. We had Verona, and now we have you in Italy. So I think it will be great that Italy will give birth to this new real democracy, not fake democracy, but real democracy.
Thank you very much to both of you for this very interesting and important, discussion among us. And I really hope to go ahead with this work together in any way that is possible.
Thank you, Francesca. All right, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.